Sister Stringer, we're going to have you come up, and you can either use this microphone or we can use this one or wherever you want.
You gotta get me straightened out. Hello. Everybody excited about Bible school? I am. Oh boy, I'm looking forward to this. And we're going to have a good time, but some of you might have seen on the screen a while ago, the thing is God has a plan. So we're going to be studying the life of Joseph. But before we get to Joseph, we've got to get to Jacob. But let me ask you a question. How many of you said, boy, I sure wish I had been born into that family over there? You wish you'd been born? Yeah, me too. You know, who's here is 8 years old right now? Well, when I was 8 years old, my daddy died. And I wanted a daddy. And I would look at these kids over here that had a daddy, and I would think, I wish I was in that family. Because if I was in that family, I don't have a daddy. Or maybe, you don't have a daddy, or maybe you're a problem. You said, I wish I was in another family. Or maybe you said, oh, that kid over there, and he's had a bicycle, and I would never have a bicycle. My parents don't have money to buy me a bicycle. If I was a member of that family, I'd get me a bicycle. You ever thought of stuff like that? Yeah, we sometimes we were somewhere else. But you know what? Let me read you a verse here. Jeremiah 1, verse 4 and 5. Then the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, this is Jeremiah. He says, before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. Do you believe that before you were ever born, that God knew you? What do you think?
I think he knew me before I was even a man.
You're right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And God knew from the very beginning where he wanted you to be. He knew from the very beginning which family he wanted you to be in. He knew at the very beginning whether he wanted you to have a bicycle or not. He knew in the very beginning whether you would have a daddy or not, or a mama or not. From the very beginning, he knew that. And so all through as we studied these lessons all week, we're going to remember that God had a plan. Did you know he had a plan for you from the very beginning? Of course. Before you were born, he had a plan for you. Before you were ever even thought about it. God had a plan for you. If you can always remember that, it'll make life a lot easier. If you say, boy, I wish I was over there and he got a bicycle, because God had a plan for you. And so that's what we're going to talk about this week in Bible school. But first of all, Joseph, we're going to talk about Joseph. We've got to start all the way back before he was born, don't we? If God had a plan for him before he was ever born, we're going to start back all the way back there. So we're going to start back with Jacob. Jacob was a young man, and he decided this time for me to get married. So he wanted him a wife. So he went way off to where all of his relatives and things lived, because he didn't want to marry somebody outside his own group. He wanted to go back. And he went back, and he met this man named Laban, who was one of his relatives, but he didn't know him before then. But he met him, and he was looking for a beautiful wife. And he looked up there, and he saw the most beautiful girl he had ever seen. Rachel, would you come up here? He met this beautiful girl, and her name was Rachel. And he looked at her, and he thought, I want that one. That's the one I want. Have you ever seen anybody more beautiful than this? And Jacob, he took a look at her and said, I've got to have this one. No matter what, I've got to have this one. He fell head over heels in love. First time he saw her, he wanted to marry her. She liked him too. Yeah, she thought he was pretty cute too. And so he goes to Laban, her father, and he said, I want this girl. I'm in love with this one. I will live with this one the rest of my life, and the sooner the better. Just let me marry. You know what Laban says? He said, well, if you'll work for me for 7 years, you can have her. 7 years. And old Jacob says, I want her so bad, I'll do it. I'll work 7 years. And it seemed like it was just days. Because every day he'd go out into the fields, he'd go guard the sheep, he'd do his work, but in his mind he was thinking of Rachel. He's going to get Rachel. He could hardly wait. He'd go to bed at night, he would dream about Rachel. Oh, I'm going to have a beautiful wife. 7 years, this 7 years gets finished, I'm going to get my beautiful wife. And he could hardly wait, and he finished his 7 years. You're going to go wait for your room.
Okay.
So everything is getting all ready. Getting all ready. He's going to get Rachel. You think he was excited? I think he was really excited. He's going to get Rachel. He wanted Rachel. And he just, oh boy, I'm going to get Rachel. And so back then, when somebody would get married, you know, they'd have what they do here, you know, have just a big party, and they just feasted, and they ate, and you know, they didn't have electricity like this, and it was kind of dark. It was sort of, it was dark. It was dark. It was dark. And they really couldn't see very well. And two over there, you know, here, you know, you ever been to a wedding? I don't know if you've going or not, but you know, if somebody's going to get married here, that bride goes off in there and puts on that beautiful white dress. And that man that's going to marry her, he doesn't get to see that dress until she walks down the aisle. And, oh, there's my beautiful bride, this beautiful dress. And he's so excited, oh, she's so beautiful. But what they did back then over there, she had to wear a veil over her head. And so they were partying, they were feasting, they're getting all ready, and Jacob is all ready for Rachel. And then Rachel comes in with a veil over her head. And he looks at me, there's my Rachel. Oh, here's my Rachel. He was so excited. He could hardly, oh, there, isn't she beautiful? Isn't she beautiful? Oh, and they had married, the wedding is all over. He gets this beautiful, beautiful bride that, oh, boy, I worked 7 years, and now I've got her. I've got my bride. And after the wedding ceremony was all over with, then they take the veil off. Sister, and she was ugly. She's so ugly. And he looked at me and said, what have they done to me? They tricked me. He tricked me, and I married the wrong. And it got ugly, ugly. Leah, have you ever seen anybody any uglier than that? Oh, shit. Jacob said, oh, he was angry. What have you done to me? What have you done to me? Because he's married the ugly sister. What did you do to me? I worked 7 years for that beautiful Rachel. And he said, well, Leah's older than it's not right to marry the younger one before the older one. But if you'll work 7 more years, I'll give you Rachel. Well, he wanted Rachel. He didn't want that ugly Leah. He wanted Rachel. So he said, okay, I'll work 7 more years, and I'll get Rachel. So he worked 7 more years, and he got Rachel, and he was so happy. But now he's got 2 wives, right? He's got ugly Leah, and he's got beautiful Rachel. But he wasn't in love with ugly Leah, was he? He was in love with beautiful Rachel. Well, you know, people get married and then they start having babies, right? Well, ugly Leah, she kept having a little baby, and then she had another one, and then she had another one. All these boys, she's having all these boys, and Rachel was feeling so sad because she wanted to have a son for Jacob, and she just didn't have any children. Leah over here just keeps saying, yeah, you might hurt it, but I'm going to have all the babies. disappointed because she wanted to have a baby for her husband. She wanted a little boy. But it was Leah that kept having the little boys. She had 10. 10 boys. Rachel didn't have any. She was so sad. I got a feeling that Leah gave her a hard time of it. You think Leah sort of made fun of her and laughed at her. You can't have any children, you got me like that. And that sort of thing. And then going home, she found a baby boy. She was so happy. Finally, she's had a little boy. And Jacob was so happy. He was so happy because he's got a little boy by Rachel. And he loved it. And what do you think he named him? He named him Joseph. And he loved that little boy. And then a little bit later, Rachel had another little boy named Benjamin. But then Rachel died. But Jacob was so happy because he's got 2 boys, 2 little boys by Rachel. And he had little Joseph, and he loved Joseph. All those 10 other boys, no. This one that was Jacob, was Joseph. He loved Joseph. And I think he petted him. You think he petted him? Well, the Bible says that he loved him more than all the other 10. You think that was right?
Yeah.
Who said yeah? You think he should have loved Joseph more than the other 10? You think someone like you, everybody did he should have. Well, he did. What do we think he should have not? He just says he loved Joseph because Joseph was Rachel's son. And he loved Rachel. And he was glad that he got a little boy by Rachel. And he was loved little Joseph. And I have a feeling that some of these things the Bible doesn't tell us what we do, but because of what Joseph became, I think that I can imagine this could have happened. Don't you think Joseph just put him on his knee, he petted him, and he taught him, and he would teach him, and gave him all of the attention. The other 10, no. But this one little boy, he loved him, he petted him, and he taught him, set him on his knee, and teach him, because he was so much in love with that little Jacob, little Joseph. Remember, boys and girls, we've got to start right now from the very beginning. Before Joseph was ever born, God had a plan, right? Remember that all the way through this week. You've got to remember God had a plan. He had 10 brothers, older brothers. He could have been born first. He could have been the oldest one, couldn't he? He could have. He could have been the 5th, but he wasn't. He could have been the 9th or the 10th, but he wasn't. He was number 11. Why? Because
God had a plan.
yes, because God had a plan. And God planned for him to be born right there. Number 11. Because remember, God had a plan. He had a plan for that little boy, for what he was going to do with him. And, sometimes the people who didn't know if God had a plan or not, but boys and girls, remember all through the lesson, all through the week, remember that he also has a plan for you. For every one of us, just like Joseph. He had a plan for Joseph before he was ever born. He planned for Joseph to be born number 11. He planned for Joseph to be born to Mary. But Rachel. He planned for him to be born to Rachel because God had a plan for him. Joseph didn't know that plan, did he? Do you know God's plan for you?
No.
What's his plan for you?
I think he wants me to go to his heart and be nice and help other people.
What plan for you? What about you?
I think he has a plan for me to be good at church,
good. And remember the number one plan. So when you were in church Sunday morning, Pastor Nathan talked about when you were born. You were born on a certain path, a certain road. If you were there Sunday morning, you were born on a road that is a bad road. You don't get to heaven on that road. And so when you were born, so the first thing you have to do is you go within God's plan, is you have to get saved, don't you? Because you can't be, that's his first plan for you, for everybody. He wants everybody to get on that plan. And when you get saved, then he can show you what the rest of it. But he doesn't sometimes show us what his plan is. You and Joseph, and even Jacob, Joseph's father, he didn't know that God had a special plan for Joseph. He didn't tell him. But God had a plan. Well, it all worked out. And as we develop the story, as we go this week, we're going to see where it doesn't seem like it's a very good plan to me. It just didn't look like it was a very good plan. But remember all the way that God had a plan that he didn't show it until a long time later, but God had a plan. And so tomorrow night we're going to expand more on the story.